And it was very traumatic. No kid should have to go through that. She's in the pediatric ICU, hooked up to a bunch of tubes. Something I hope I never see again. Me doing this stupid, crazy, ridiculous running. Hopefully make the world a little better place and brought that line closer where my daughter know the world with type 1 diabetes. Welcome to episode 244 of the AHRC Marathon Training Vlog. MK here with Brian, Cole, Haven, and Evan on a very misty and foggy Friday morning. What happened to my California sun? Today is a super special day. Do you know why I said special, Evan?
Not really.
It's special because we get to do a recovery run with some hill sprints. And it's special because my good friend Gabe Peterson, ultra runner, marathoner, and YouTuber, is going to be our guest for a run today. And I get to ask him some interview questions so we get to learn more about Gabe and his misadventures. All right, let's go. My friend Gabe has numerous accomplishments in endurance activities, including Ironman, ultra distances in 100 miles and above. And he's raised over $22,000 for juvenile diabetes through his fundraising efforts while running. Gabe Young, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to come run with us and share a little bit about your experiences in running and ultra running and marathoning. I'm sure our viewers are going to really appreciate your stories. Maybe you can start out by telling everybody a little bit about yourself. Excited to be on All Heart Running. Big fan of the channel, and really excited to see MK take all his positivity and optimism and share it with the world. So let's see, a little bit about me. I have my own YouTube channel, started this year, called Gabe's Misadventures, to chronicle my adventures that usually transition into misadventures. I live in the San Diego area, as you can see here. This is Lake Hodges, my home-based trails, not far from where I live. This is December, for people who are watching this a little later. That's why I'm wearing this festive Christmas, New Year's themed shirt. And I'm just wearing a long sleeve shirt and shorts. So San Diego doesn't suck. In fact, my favorite place in the whole country. So my first time living here was 1992, dating myself, when I went to boot camp for the Navy, which is right down by the airport. Well, actually the airport's built on top of a lot of the old recruit training center. So I think about that every time I'm flying out of there. And so I spent some time here in the 90s when I was in the Navy, and very formative experiences. Always had a special place in my heart. And then lived here in the 2000s. My wife was going to grad school, and I was working in a pharmaceutical company down here. Then we moved away, and I always swore one day to move back. So finally got the chance in 2019 to move back, and yeah, winter's not so bad here. Outside of running, have a family, 2 daughters who keep me on my toes, 2 dogs, and of course a wife who manages all that, so I can be out running a lot for work. I'm the CIO of a pharmaceutical company here in the San Diego area. Yeah, so yeah, I think between those 3 elements, family, work, and running, that keeps me out of trouble. Hey Gabe, you're a bit of an endurance nut. How'd you get started? So, my origin story. How did all my misadventures start? really started when I turned 40, had the classic midlife crisis, and realized things were only gonna get harder if I waited. So I'd always been pretty active in my whole adult life. I was a recreational runner, never very fast. I even did a few marathons along the way. I didn't know what I was doing, training was horrible. And my goal was always just to finish. So I think back then, my PR was something like a 4:30 something marathon. But when I turned 40, I said, all right, I gotta take my shot. And I'd always dreamed of doing an Ironman, but that sounded too insane. So I thought, what about a half Ironman? So this is 2013. I signed up for a half Ironman here in San Diego. We were actually living up in Pasadena. The race called Super Frog, and it was started by the Navy SEALs so they could get ready for the Ironman in Kona. So I love that. I mentioned earlier I was in the Navy, so I love that connection to my past. And I thought, how hard can a half Ironman really be? You know, I can swim. I was in the Navy, and what I quickly discovered is I could just not die in the water for a very long time. Actual freestyle swimming, I was not very good at. So I took swimming lessons, which is really tough as an adult. There's so much technique involved in swimming. I'd been a recreational runner, so I at least had that going for me. And then I hadn't actually ridden a bike in like 20 years. Although I basically grew up on one as a kid, because that's what we did in the 80s. So went to the local bike shop, bought an aluminum frame bike, and put together like a 6-month training plan. And fast forward, finished Super Frog, half Ironman, and you know, all the marathons where I get to the finish, I'd always swear I'll never do this again because I was so undertrained. But I actually trained somewhat properly for Super Frog. I got to the finish and I thought that was amazing. I want to keep doing that. So, you know, just keep progressing. Next year I did a full Ironman Arizona, and I just thought, wow, that was amazing. I don't think I'll ever top that. Next thing you know, keep progressing in endurance sports, and end up doing 100 milers, like the Wasatch 100, the Bear 100, Leadville 100, and then at the time we were living in Utah, and a new race started called Moab 240, and loved Moab when we lived there. Any chance we got, long weekend, we go down to Moab. So at first I said, no, I'll never do a 200-mile race. That's insane. But then, you know, the idea marinates for a while, and so you tell yourself, I'll only do it once. What is that saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I signed New Year's Day 2019, still pretty hungover from New Year's night. I signed up for Moab 240, having no idea how to get ready for a 200-mile race. Fast forward, I not only made it, but exceeded my expectations. You know, I just kind of went out there as this is gonna be my Zen vision quest. No crew, no pacers. I'm just gonna do my thing. I don't care what my place is. And then I'm just out there doing my thing, and I get to the finish, and I finally ask, like, how did I finish? And the race volunteer is like, you are 28th. I thought she was gonna say I was like 100th. I was like, really? 28th. So that was kind of where I discovered if I have a talent for a distance, and I don't think I'm a talented runner, just a hard worker. If I have a talent for a distance, it's the 200-mile distance, which sounds insane to say out loud.
Hey, Uncle Gabe, what do you love about this crazy sport of ultra running?
What do I love about the crazy 200-mile plus distance? I'd say, it's two things. One is it always feels like there's another rung to the ladder to climb. There's always something more challenging, and I thought I was at the top of the ladder many times in my running journey, only to discover there's another rung. It's crazier. So, after Moab 2019, the 200-mile distance became the primary focus of my training. Although I do kind of subscribe to the Sage Kennedy model of any distance, anywhere, any surface, anytime. But my real passion is going mega ultra long. But I'll still do half marathons, but what I really love, being out in the mountains for days and days. So kind of progressed from Moab. The next year was COVID, but when there were no organized races, made my own challenge. So I linked up with a buddy, Kevin Goldberg, and we did the John Muir Trail northbound in 5 days. We didn't know it at the time, but would later discover that we set the fastest known time from Cottonwood Pass to the John Muir Trail. We kind of went into it as cocky ultra runners, thinking, oh, this is just fast packing, how hard can it be? Well, it turns out when you're the race support, you cook all your own food, you're carrying 25 pounds of gear at high altitude, sleep in 2 to 4 hours a night. It's really, really hard. Still one of the hardest things I've done. 2021 races started to open back up, and I did the inaugural Cocodona, and that was a real challenging race. The first 50K of that race is as hard as any race in the world. Climb over Lane Mountain, it's 100 degrees, runners just laying on the trail out of water, and I got to the 50K mark and thought I might be done, but rehydrated, rallied, and that was a great race because I never thought it was going particularly well, but then at the end Kevin was pacing me and he's like, you got a shot at the top 20, let's go, you're gonna remember this for the rest of your life. And with a lot of encouragement from him, turned myself inside out at the end and came in 19th. So the 19th person ever to get one of those sweet Cocodona buckles you see on social media. And then I followed that up 2 months later by doing a race I thought I could never do, the Badwater 135. I remember reading about that and thought those people like Scott Jurek, they're just superhuman. That's something I could never do. So that race terrified me because it's hot and heat is my kryptonite. I'm a big dude, 180 pounds. Heat is not my friend. And it's roads, even though I said, I try not to be a surface snob. I really like trails. And thought of running 135 miles on a road. I just thought I'd be beat up, but said, what, challenge my fears. And you know what? I did it. And I did it fast enough to qualify for the Spartathlon, which I will do one of these days. And then 2022 was kind of my year of setbacks. with injuries. I was signed up for Tour de Jante, but sprained my ankle and then got a severe case of COVID. So kind of had to pivot, and then ended up having just a really fun adventure with the San Diego 200, the inaugural race. It's kind of a fat ass 200, very small field, and did it with my buddy Alex. All right, it wasn't our intention to do the whole thing together, but it ended up just working out. And we actually, the rest of the field dropped out, so we were both coveted first, and even more coveted DFL. So how many people can say that? They won the race, and we're also DFL, like double award. Also leading up to that, did Mountain Lakes 100, cranked out a sub 24 hour 100, which, you know, I'd done it before, but not on trails in the mountains, so that was a goal. So it was cool to check that off. And then this year has really been about Tour de Jante. So, sorry, got a little wild with the camera there. This year, put my name back in the hat for the lottery and said I'm going for it. And very cool that ended up training with two friends, Kevin Goldberg and the other Gabe Rubenstein. So that was kind of looming over my whole year, but I knew I was going to spend all summer in the mountains, so I kind of organized my year to be more fast running early in the year, just so I didn't get sick of running up and down mountains, which, believe me, it can happen. Do even the most amazing thing over and over again, and you'll get tired of it. So this year, did Tour de Jante, definitely the hardest race I've ever done. It's widely considered the most challenging mountain ultra in the world. 330 kilometers with about 8,600 feet of vertical, or 3 Everests of vertical. So I got 227 miles, and you know, I always say I do these things to test my limits, and I came really close to my limits there. So many times I thought I was done, because it's just so relentlessly technical. There's no race like that in the US. Nothing comes close. Nothing. I challenge the race directors out there. Someone put on a Tour de Jante level event in the US. It can be done. We have the mountains. Americans will sign up for an amazing challenge. So that was kind of the capstone of the year for me. So this is a really long answer. I was trying to time it so I didn't have to answer going up that hill. So second part is there are a lot of variables in ultra running that become more and more important the farther you go. So you have to be skilled in multiple modalities of running, like this, easy trail. But if you're just a runner, you go out, you do something out of the mountains, they'll crush you, and you will be death marching to the finish. So you have to be a good flat runner, good uphill runner, good downhill runner, really smart about nutrition. So it's like a really extended chess game. And then as you get into like day 3, day 4, day 5, one of these multi-day races, it's can you still make good decisions? You know, the Tour de Jante, it took me 135 hours. I slept 7 hours. And even though I think my decision making was impaired, it was still better than a lot of other people I saw out there who just could barely even speak. You talk to them and they would just speak to you in gibberish.
like they're speaking in tongues, they're out of their mind. And it wasn't just because they're speaking the language. Long answer. Maybe I'm cable. Cut that in two.
Your next challenge is a road marathon. Why come back to fast and flat?
All right, so this year, going back to the roads. Although I've pretty much always run roads. I usually get at least one road run a week, depending on what I'm doing. Qualified for the Boston Marathon. So that's been a bucket list item. Again, another thing, I just never thought I could be fast enough to qualify for Boston. So earlier this year, I mentioned one of the other segments, I knew I was gonna spend all summer in the mountains training for Tour de France. So kind of went with, reverse periodization approach. Do the least specific thing farthest out from your big race. So I focused on just building up speed. Just mostly mentally, to keep myself from having 9 months of doing vertical. So in April, I kind of came up with a challenge for myself to try to qualify for Boston and then run a mountain 100 miler in the same month. So qualified at Charleston Mountain in Las Vegas and set a PR. I think I ran a 3:16, which I was, compared to when I was running 1,000 miles per year, when you start running closer to 3,000 miles per year, I was surprised that it was definitely not easy, but not like I remembered when I did all the marathons. It's more of a recreational marathon runner. So I did that, and I quickly pivoted to trail running. So I kind of had to train for both. Then I did Canyons 100 in Auburn, California. There's a lot of the Western States course. The inaugural year they had 100 miler, and came in third in my age group. So that was kind of a fun challenge. BQ'd and age group podium in 100-mile mountain trail ultra in the same month. Try to be humble, but I will say I am proud of that accomplishment.
Well, maybe not so flat. You're going to love Boston, Gabe Young. You're going to crush it on those Newton Hills. I know it. You often raise giant events to raise funds for juvenile type 1 diabetes. Can you tell us more about this passion that you have?
Another dimension to my running has been using this as a way to bring awareness and raise funds for type 1 diabetes. Back in 2019, my oldest daughter, Sky, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and it was very traumatic. No kid should have to go through that. I was away for work, and I caught the first flight back home, and I get to the hospital. She's in the pediatric ICU, unconscious, hooked up to a bunch of tubes, and something I hope I never see again. So it was a big life transition for us. It's something, I'm hoping with more research, she'll know a world without type 1 diabetes one day. So back in 2019, I was doing Moab, and so I thought, well, if me doing these crazy, stupid, epic races can raise money, why not? So I kind of tentatively put a fundraiser out there, with a goal of like $2,400. Since it's Moab 240, $10 per mile that I run. And within a day, we blew through that target. And I think we ended up raising something like $4,000 for Moab. So every year, done a fundraiser event. 2020, during COVID, I ran 100 miles on a treadmill. Yeah, it's both as horrible as you think and not as horrible. It simplifies the logistics quite a bit. And then 2022, Badwater raised over 5,000 for JDRF, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, is my charity of choice. And then this year, Tour de Gens were raised about $5,000. So all the events combined, it's over $20,000 that me doing this stupid, crazy, amazing, epic, ridiculous running has helped hopefully make the world a little better place and brought that line closer where my daughter can know a world without type 1 diabetes, without alarms going off at the middle of the night, having to wake up and drink a juice box. And if she doesn't, it can mean really horrible things. No kid, no person should have to live with that hanging over them. So, yeah, hopefully me being out here running the trails, the roads, whatever surface you got, I'll run it. If I can make the world a tiny bit better by doing that, then that's a good thing.
Hey Gabe Young, any advice for AHRC fan beginner runners?
So yeah, my advice to beginners is begin. You know, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a first step, and just focus on breaking up into small goals. And all those small goals turn into big accomplishments down the road. You dream of doing a 200 miler. Well, enjoy the journey. That should be like a 3 or 4 year goal for most people. Start small and just keep building, keep challenging yourself. So yeah, thanks for having me on the YouTube channel. Super excited to do this interview with MK while I'm out running my local trails. You can follow my misadventures at Gabe's Misadventures on YouTube or Instagram, and maybe I'll see you out on the trails one day.
Spending time moving through mountains is near and dear to my heart because I got my beginnings in running through mountain ultra. I just want to say thank you to my good friend Gabe Young for taking time out of his busy schedule to share with the All Heart running family his experience in running, in mountain ultra running, and his social mission to help bring juvenile type 1 diabetes to an end. If you're compelled by Sky's fight with juvenile type 1 diabetes and compelled to donate to JDRF, then you can find the link to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation below in the description.
Thanks for your consideration.
Hey Evan, the weather is definitely not so great, huh?
Yes.
But the run certainly was meaningful.
Yep.
I hope that you have a great day and a meaningful run. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks again, Gabe Young. All right, bye now.